My name's Ross Halden. I'm 52 years old, and if there's one thing I've learned after all these years, it's this. Sometimes the deepest betrayals don't come from enemies. They come from the people you'd give everything for. I used to believe loyalty could fix things. That if I just worked harder, gave more, sacrificed enough. Eventually someone would see that. Respect it. Return it. But that's not how it works when your family only sees you as useful. I'm the oldest of three. The dependable one. The fixer. The one who never asked for anything but always showed up when someone else needed help. My brother, Caleb, the golden one. Charming, loud, good with people. He never held a job for more than a year, but he always seemed to land on his feet. My sister, Dana. Quiet, smart, sweet, but she learned early that staying silent kept her out of trouble. And then there was me. The guy who paid for Dana's college when our parents couldn't afford it. The one who bailed Caleb out when he crashed a car that wasn't even his. The son who moved back home for 6 months when Dad had a stroke and who stayed long after Dad recovered because no one else would deal with the bills. I never complained, not once. I thought that's just what you do for family. 4 years ago, I sold my truck to help Mom cover the second mortgage Caleb took out without telling her to fund a doomed business idea. She cried and said I was her rock. Caleb said nothing. He just hugged me and disappeared again. That was always the pattern. I'd clean up his messes. They'd all pretend it never happened. Then someone else would ask for something new. I told myself it didn't matter. That family was complicated. That you don't keep score with blood. But you do. Your body keeps score. Your spirit keeps score. And one day, it all shows up in ways you can't ignore. The real breaking point came quietly. It was last year. Mom was having her 70th birthday. Big celebration. Backyard tent, catered food, everyone invited. I helped plan the whole thing. Paid for half of it. Worked overtime just to cover the down payment for the venue when Caleb bailed again. But when I showed up that afternoon, there was no chair with my name on it. No seat saved, not at the family table, not even with the cousins. My name wasn't on the thank you banner, not in the little speech Dana gave about how much love and support this family has always shared. And when I walked over to ask Mom what happened, she looked surprised. "Oh, honey, I thought you weren't staying long anyway. You're always so busy." Something in me cracked that day. Not loudly, not dramatically, just broke. Like a rope that's held too long under tension. Like a door quietly clicking shut for the last time. I left before the cake was cut. No one stopped me. No one called. I drove home in silence, didn't play the radio, didn't check my phone. I just sat with one truth I'd never let myself say before. They don't love me. They love what I do for them. And that's not love. That's use. That's convenience wrapped in guilt. That night, I opened my computer and started tracking every dollar I'd ever sent them. Every bill I'd paid. Every time I'd canceled a trip or postponed something for myself to be available for them. It wasn't about revenge. It was about clarity. I needed to know not emotionally but factually what I'd given up for people who'd never once offered anything in return without expectation. And when I saw the final number, I sat back. $72,000 across 10 years. I'm not rich. I've worked oil platforms most of my life. Offshore month in, month out. Hard labor, dangerous work. Long hours. $72,000 might not be a fortune to some people, but to me, it was a decade of sacrificed weekends, of skipped dentist visits, of missed chances to fix my own house because I was fixing someone else's life. That was the night I decided, I'm done. No announcements, no angry confrontations, no guilt-tripping emails. I was going to do the one thing I'd never done before, put myself first. That was the start, not of payback, not of bitterness, but of taking my life back. And like all things that begin quietly, it was going to shake everything around me. Because the thing about people who are used to you being their safety net, they panic when you walk away. They get loud when the quiet one finally says, no. I didn't return their calls for a few days, just long enough to see who would notice, who would actually care. 3 days after Mom's birthday, I got a text from Dana. "Hey, are you okay? You seemed off." I stared at it for a while. Then I put the phone down, didn't respond. 2 more days passed. Then Caleb called, 3 times in a row. Finally, a voicemail. Bro, can you just call me back? Mom's worried. You kind of made things weird when you left early. Weird. I paid for half the party, stood through hours of fake toasts, and got seated behind the trash bins. But I was the one who made it weird. That's when I knew. They hadn't even noticed what they'd done. I called Mom the next morning. She picked up on the second ring. Ross, she said, cheerful. There you are. We were starting to think you were sick or something. I'm not sick, I said quietly. There was a pause. Is something wrong? I wanted to ask her. Just once I wanted to hear her acknowledge it. The forgotten seat. The thankless years. The fact that she hadn't even asked if I was staying for cake. But I didn't. Instead, I said, I've been thinking. I need to take a step back for a while. Another pause. Step back from what? From being the fixer. From always being the one who shows up. Her tone changed. Just a little. Well, Ross, if you're upset about something, we can talk. No, we can't talk if nobody listens. And then I ended the call. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. No one called for a week. Then 2. Then Caleb texted, You're being dramatic. This is family. We don't keep score. But they had kept score. Every time I said no, it was remembered. Every yes forgotten. I watched it unfold like I wasn't even part of it anymore. Dana sent a passive post on Facebook about people who walk away without explanation. Caleb posted some vague quote about being stabbed in these back by those closest to you. I didn't respond to any of it, because sometimes silence is the only answer that matters. Then the financial request started again. First, Dana. She called and said her car needed repairs. Said she remembered I helped her last time and asked if I could float her just until Friday. I told her gently I can't. A long pause. Oh, okay, she said. That's fine. But I could hear it in her voice. Disappointment, confusion, resentment. Like I'd broken a rule I didn't agree to follow anymore. A few days later, Mom called, said the roof needed work. It's only $200, she said. You always said you wanted to make sure I was comfortable. I took a deep breath. Mom. I've given over $70,000 to this family in the last 10 years. She gasped. That's not possible. I have records, dates, transfers, bills. Another pause. I didn't ask you to keep track, Ross. I didn't ask for payback, I said. I asked for acknowledgement. And maybe a seat at the table. The roof didn't get fixed that week. Caleb didn't show up to help. Dana stopped liking my posts online. It was small, petty, but it stung. The family I thought I was holding together, they weren't breaking. They were just finding someone else to ask. And I was learning what it felt like to stop being useful and just be invisible. A month passed. I took overtime shifts offshore. 4 weeks straight on High Tide Station 9. No calls, no texts. Just the sound of metal salt wind and quiet resolve. And then, a message from a number I didn't recognize. This is Tanya. I work with your mom's property lender. Your name is still listed as financial guarantor on her home equity line. We've had a few missed payments. Wanted to check if you were still involved. I froze. She hadn't told me. She hadn't even asked. They were still using my name to hold up their mistakes. I drove straight home the next day. Didn't even unpack. Went to the bank, filed paperwork to remove myself from any further obligation. It was messy. Complicated. Took 3 signatures and a full review. But I did it. And I didn't tell them. Not yet. Because I wanted to see what would happen. Sure enough, 2 weeks later, Mom called again. Ross. Honey, I got a letter from the bank. Something about guarantor changes. Did you? I did. There was silence. You didn't even warn me. Did you warn me when you used my name? Her voice cracked. You're punishing me. No, I'm protecting myself. Another silence. Then coldly she said, this isn't like you. And for the first time in my life, I agreed with her. This wasn't like me. Not the old me. The me who kept sacrificing, kept saying yes, kept carrying people who never looked down to see the hands holding them up. That Ross is gone. The one who remains is tired. But finally he's free. After that last call with my mother, I didn't hear from her for 2 weeks. No texts, no voicemails, just silence. But this time, it wasn't the kind that gave me peace. It was the kind that wrapped around you like fog, heavy and unresolved. And then came the group message. Caleb started it. Hey fam, just wanted to say that no matter what's going on, we're always here for each other. No grudges, no drama, just love. It was subtle, but I knew what it was. A performance. A staged gesture to make themselves look like the bigger people. To make me seem like the one causing trouble. Dana responded, totally agree. Some people forget how much family has done for them. That one hit me in the chest. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Then I did something I never do in these moments. I hit reply all. I haven't forgotten anything. In fact, I remember every dollar, every favor, every time I was the last call in a crisis no one else wanted to deal with. But thank you for the reminder. Then I muted the thread. That night I couldn't sleep. Because even though I knew I had every right to stand my ground, there's something about family that always finds a way to make you question yourself. Was I being cruel? Had I become bitter? I thought back to a memory from 5 years earlier, the night Dad had his stroke. I'd gotten the call at 2 a.m., drove 6 hours back to their town straight from a night shift offshore. Caleb showed up the next morning in gym clothes. Dana flew in 2 days later and cried at the hospital like she'd been there the whole time. I sat through doctors' meetings, paid out of pocket for a second opinion. Took time off work to renovate the downstairs bedroom so Dad wouldn't have to climb stairs. Nobody remembered that, not even in the eulogy when he passed away 2 years later. Caleb did the speech. He said Dad was always surrounded by love. We were all there for him. We were lucky like that. I wanted to stand up, wanted to shout, no, you weren't there. You weren't the one who stayed. But I didn't. I just sat in the second row holding the folded flag they gave us. Grief distorts things, makes you remember the best even when it wasn't the truth. But now I wasn't grieving anyone else's absence. I was grieving my own presence in a life where I'd been erased. 3 days after the group message, Dana called. She didn't say hi. Just, I think this has gone far enough. Has it? I asked. Yes, she snapped. You're angry. We get it. But you're punishing everyone for things you never said bothered you. I stayed quiet, let the silence settle. Then I asked, when did I ever get the space to say it bothered me? Dana exhaled. You never said no. Because every time I tried to, someone cried. Or made me feel like I was selfish. She hesitated. That's not fair. No. What's not fair is that I bought you tires last winter after you said you couldn't afford it, and the next week you posted vacation photos from Aruba. There was a pause. Caleb needed help that month, she said softly. And I was the help. Again. She didn't answer. Eventually she said, are you really going to let money destroy this family? And I laughed. A low, tired laugh. It's not the money, Dana. It's the pattern. It's the entitlement. It's the fact that when I finally stopped bleeding for everyone, suddenly I'm the problem. I didn't hear from her again for a while. But the storm was just beginning. Because when guilt doesn't work, families like mine try shame next. The next week, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Uncle Brian. He's Mom's younger brother, lives in Austin. Never involved much, but always stayed neutral. He started slow. Hey, Ross, just wanted to check in. Your mom's been a little upset lately. I imagine so. She's confused. Says she doesn't understand why you've pulled away. She understands, I said. Well, I think she misses you. That one hit me differently. Because the truth is, I missed her too. I missed the version of her who used to hold my hand when I was 6 and afraid of thunderstorms. The one who kissed my scraped knees and told me I was the strong one. But somewhere along the way, that mother became someone else. Someone who saw me as a solution, not a son. I didn't say all that. Instead, I just said, tell her I'm okay. And I'll reach out when I'm ready. Uncle Brian was quiet. Then he said, you've always been the backbone of this family. Don't forget that. I smiled bittersweet. I remember, Uncle. That's why I had to step away. Even steel breaks when no one checks for rust. The irony, once I stopped carrying them, I started standing taller. I had energy again. My work offshore felt purposeful instead of like an escape. I started fixing up my own place, painting the kitchen, repairing the fence I'd neglected for years. And for the first time in ages, I didn't feel guilty for spending time on myself. But then came the email. Subject line, family matter, please respond. From Caleb. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. Inside was a PDF loan application. They'd tried to put my name down as co-signer again. This time for a private rehab facility Caleb wanted to attend after his 3rd DUI. And he hadn't even asked me. That was the moment the line in the sand became a wall. I replied, do not use my name, credit, or information for anything, ever again. I am not your safety net, your fallback, or your plan B. I wish you healing, but not at my expense. Then I blocked his email. That night I sat on my porch with a beer watching the sun go down over the field behind my house. No texts, no ringing phone, just the sound of the wind and the slow, quiet understanding that came with it. I didn't hate them. I wasn't even angry anymore. But I was finished. And there's a sacred kind of peace in that. It was early evening when the phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Ross Halden? Yes. This is Dr. Keller from Southridge General Hospital. I'm calling regarding your mother, Evelyn Halden. My grip tightened. What happened? She collapsed at home earlier today. Neighbor found her unconscious. We've stabilized her, but we believe it was a mild stroke. She's awake now, but disoriented. She kept asking for you. It felt like someone had knocked the air out of my lungs. I sat down slowly, pressing the phone to my ear, heart pounding. A stroke. The same thing that took Dad away slowly. The same road I'd walked once before. I thanked the doctor, scribbled down details, and stared at the notepad like it might rearrange itself. She asked for me. After all this time. After the silence, the guilt games, the financial betrayal, she still asked for me. And the worst part of me wanted to go. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake replaying memories like old home movies. Her singing in the kitchen when I was a kid. The way she used to tuck in the blankets too tight. How she'd hum when nervous, same hum I hadn't heard in years. And I kept thinking, would I regret not going? Would I feel something twist inside me later, knowing I didn't show up when it actually mattered? But then I'd remember the unpaid loans, the forged signatures, the way she made me feel like a stranger at her own birthday. And I'd ask myself, was I the one she wanted? Or just the one she needed? The next morning I drove to the hospital. Not because I forgave everything, not because I was ready to fall back into old patterns, but because sometimes closure looks like being the better person even when no one else deserves it. When I got there, the nurse led me into her room quietly. She looked smaller than I remembered. Tubes in her arm, bruising near her temples, eyes closed, face slack. She looked old, frail, human. Not the commanding woman who'd ordered me around for years. Not the guilt-wielding matriarch who used love like currency. Just Mom. She opened her eyes when I walked in. Her voice was barely a whisper. Ross. I nodded. I'm here. She reached for my hand and I let her take it. I didn't know who else to call, she said. That sentence hurt more than I expected. Not because it was untrue, but because it was completely true. Caleb wasn't there. Dana hadn't shown up. I was still the one she expected to fix things. We talked, softly, carefully. She apologized, not with grand gestures, but with small truths. I should have said thank you more. I didn't mean to make you feel like you didn't matter. I was proud of you. I just didn't know how to say it. And that's when I felt something shift. Not forgiveness, but understanding. She was a flawed person, raised in a generation that didn't talk feelings, only sacrifices. Loved in a way that looked like obligation and survival, not softness. And maybe she had done her best, even if it wasn't good enough. I stayed for an hour. Helped her sit up, held her water cup, talked to the nurse about discharge paperwork. But I didn't offer to move back in. Didn't promise I'd take care of everything. Before I left, I said, I'll check on you this week, but I need you to understand. I can't be everything anymore. She nodded, no argument. Maybe she finally understood, or maybe she was too tired to fight. Either way, it was the closest we'd come to peace in years. When I got home, Caleb was waiting. On my porch. Sunglasses, slicked back hair, fake concern plastered across his face. You saw her, he asked. I nodded, walking past him to unlock the door. She said you might come. I said nothing. She needs someone there, Ross. For recovery, therapy, groceries. You know how it goes. I turned to face him. I know exactly how it goes. That's why I'm not doing it again. He looked confused. You're just gonna abandon her. No. I already did what none of you did. I showed up. His mouth tightened. You think you're better than us? No, I said quietly. I think I'm finally done bleeding for people who can't stop cutting. He scoffed. She always loved you best, you know. That made me laugh, a bitter, tired laugh that came from someplace deep. No, Caleb. She loved what I did for her. You? She excused. Me. She expected. He left after that. No argument, no final blowout. Just silence. And in that silence, I felt something heavy lift. I had made my choice. I could care. Without being consumed, I could show up. Without moving back in. I could offer support. Without surrendering my soul. That balance had always eluded me. But now I was finding it. Later that week, Dana called. She'd visited Mom once, stayed 10 minutes. But her call wasn't about that. It was about inheritance. "Did she say anything to you?" Dana asked. "About her will?" "No," I replied. "Well, if she changes it, I think we should all have a say. You know, to keep things fair." Fair. That word again. The one they only used when something didn't benefit them. I ended the call politely, didn't yell, didn't argue, because I no longer needed them to understand. I only needed them to stop taking. That Sunday, I sat alone on my porch again. Same beer, same sunset. But this time, I wasn't waiting for the phone to ring. Wasn't wondering if I'd said the right thing. I'd said what needed to be said. Done what I could. And drawn the line I should have drawn years ago. And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt okay. Not happy, not healed, but at peace. And that was enough. It's been 6 months since my mother's stroke. She made it through recovery slower than expected, but steady. I visited a few times, brought groceries, fixed a broken cabinet. Each time she seemed more careful, less commanding, softer in her own way. We didn't talk about the past, not directly, but she'd sometimes touch my hand a little longer, or offer to make me tea, which she hadn't done in years. Small gestures, quiet reparations, and I accepted them. Not because they erased anything, but because I wasn't angry anymore. Something shifts in you when you stop waiting for an apology to feel free. When you finally realize the healing isn't in their words, it's in your decision to move forward anyway. I wasn't who I used to be. I didn't belong in the old dynamic anymore. And for once, I was okay being the one who chose peace over proximity. A month ago, I got a letter in the mail from my mother's attorney. She'd revised her will. I sat at the kitchen table and opened it slowly. Ross Halden is to receive full ownership of the family property. A written note attached in the final envelope, because you always took care of it even when no one else did. I didn't know how to feel. It wasn't joy, not exactly. It wasn't vindication either. It was more like a release. Like the full weight of the last 2 decades finally landed in one place and I could set it down and walk away. The next day I called Dana, told her about the letter. I wanted to be fair, to be decent even if the past hadn't been. Her voice was tense. "She left you the house." "She did." There was silence. Then sharply, "Are you going to keep it?" I paused. "No. I donated the property. All of it. To a local shelter foundation that turns rural homes into transitional housing for veterans and single parents. I didn't do it to make a statement. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because that house held too many ghosts, too many unpaid debts, emotional ones. And I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life dusting off furniture that never felt like mine. When the lawyer asked if I was sure, I said yes without hesitation. Some inheritances are better left behind. Caleb found out a few days later. He called. Voicemail. "You gave it away. Are you insane? That was ours. You didn't earn more than the rest of us." I didn't respond, because I didn't need to justify anything to people who only called me when something had value attached. Instead, I started something new. I took a portion of my savings money I'd once set aside just in case the family needs something and used it for something I never thought I'd prioritize. Myself. I signed up for a photography course, replaced the old back deck, booked a solo trip to Montana to hike Glacier Park, something I'd dreamed of for years but always put off. And something strange happened. I stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. I stopped rehearsing arguments in my head. Stopped checking my phone, half expecting guilt to call. There was nothing left to give. And that somehow gave me everything. One evening, I got a message from Dana. Just a text. "I heard what you did. I don't agree with it, but I understand. Maybe someday we can talk." I stared at it for a while, then replied, "Maybe, someday. Until then, take care of yourself." And that was it. No long thread, no rehashing the past. Just space. A line drawn and honored. Some days I think back on everything I carried. The phone calls at midnight. The bills paid without question. The holidays spent as a ghost at my own table. And for a long time I thought that walking away meant I lost something. That choosing myself meant abandoning them. But now, I know better. I didn't walk away from them. I walked toward myself. If you're listening to this and you're the one who always shows up, the one who fixes, pays, repairs, forgives, I want you to hear me clearly. You are allowed to stop. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect your peace even if no one claps for it. Not every act of love needs to come at the cost of your identity. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is stop letting yourself be the one they keep wounding simply because you don't bleed loud enough. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not waiting for closure. I found it. In the silence, in the distance, in the choice to heal without dragging everyone else with me. And if that means I walk this next chapter alone, then at least I'm walking it on my own terms.